Hello and welcome to another 852 tutorial. In this tutorial we are going to be using Unreal Engine 4 to create a falling leaves effect, particle effect for this tree over here. Over on the left hand side we have our first tutorial that we did, which was creating love hearts for like a hit mechanic. We've created a warp hole effect, and now we are going to move on to creating a falling leaves tree effect. This is my leaf that I very artistically and meticulously created. I'm sure you're all very impressed. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to import that. Cool, so once I've got my leaf, I'm going to right click it and create it as a material, just as usual. And let me double click that to bring up my material editor. Inside my material editor, I'm going to set this to a plain view so I can see what it's going to look like. Switch this to masked and drag off my node into my opacity into my opacity mask, my alpha channel into my opacity mask, and that way I will not have any background information here. We should just be able to see the leaf. Cool, there we go, just our leaf. Looking good. Cool. Alright, let's close this for now, we don't need that. And let's go ahead and right click and create a new particle system. I'm going to call this falling underscore leaf party underscore party, because I like to call these parties. And double click that to bring up our particle editor, the cascade editor. So inside here, just first things first, let's change what we're spawning here for our leaf. And all we do is we drag it and drop it up and wait for it to compile its shaders and update itself. While we've done that as well, I'm going to set my camera. I like to put this over on the left hand side just so I can see both at the same time. And where's my leaf party? Oh no, I call it falling leaf, which is silly. And I'm going to drag and drop my falling leaf into the middle of my tree. Hit save in there. And I'm just going to wait for it to compile its shaders. Alright then, awesome. It looks like we can now see our leaves, which is totally what we expected to happen. So moving on next, what we're going to do is we are going to set up our leaves so we can see them doing the actual actions we would like them to do, which is fall, not float weirdly into the sky. So let's go across into our particle editor. So again, as an overview, we're just going to be using some of the presets, nothing too advanced, keeping it fairly straightforward. And we do not, first thing we're going to do is change the spawn, because I think so far way too many are spawning. And this is going to come down to your own personal preference, but yeah, keep a relatively low number. Like even that's way too high. It just might be a case of like, play with it, so see what you feel, see what you think. Well, looks good. Cool. And our initial velocity, we totally want to change, because at the moment on our Z, it is shooting way up into the sky. What we actually want is we want to go the other way. So just sliding that left. Again, so I'll play with it. See what feels natural, what feels good. Because you don't want it to fall too fast, but you want it to make sure you can go the distance. So that's our max. We also going to want to add a bit of almost seemingly random to that. Cool. How's that? Yeah, that's alright by me. I mean, it's still actually a bit fast. I'm gonna slow it down a little bit. This was, I just sculpted a quick tree for this, but it's probably really quite high poly and gotta slow the system down a little bit. Alright, so let's go down into lifetime. And at the moment, we're set to sort of 1-on-1. What we're going to want to do is drag that really high. I mean, again, this is going to be up to you. The longer they're on screen, the more you'll have on screen. Obviously, the more it's going to take up your processing power. So we're going to want to add another channel to this, another variable. So let's right click. And in here, you are going to want to find something called collision. And in there, act collision. So look for collision, act collision. And let's click on act collision. And at the top, at the moment, it says we are set to kill. We don't want to kill, we just want to freeze. But what's happening is we're getting stuck in the tree. So I'm just gonna lay you out there, just make sure you're getting stuck on the floor. Excellent. That's good enough for me. Alright then, let's add a bit of initial rotation. So again, we're gonna right click and we're gonna find rotation and initial rotation. And what this is gonna do is, because you see how at the moment, well, before our leaves were falling just straight down, this is going to add a bit of seemingly more random to them. And we're just going to find our drop downs, and we're just going to increase these numbers quite ridiculously. Which gives us a nice sort of random feel to it. Awesome. Cool. Alright, what we're going to do is we want to add another right click. And what we want is our initial location to change. Because at the moment, all our things are falling into this one spot. And that's not really how trees work, more or less. So let's go into our start location. And again, yeah, we'll just drag these and sort of see what happens. Don't need to too much bother about the EZ. There you go, you see how it's not so much spawning in the same places now. What we can do, if we want it to be a bit more technical, let me just save this and pull it out of the way for a second. In our editor, if we go to our top view, let's full screen it and change it from wireframe to lit so we can see and find our tree. Which is here, our tree is here. While holding your middle mouse button, you can drag a sort of ruler down. And roughly we can see that our tree is about 160 and again about 160. So if I go back into my particle emitter and find my initial location, what I'm going to do is set 160 divided by 2 is 80 because we're in the middle. So we're going to go 80 and minus 80. And same again over here, 80 and minus 80. And hit save. And I want to go back to my perspective view actually real quick. Cool. Oops. And we can already see we've got a lot more difference on where we are spawning. So there's just, I mean, there are a couple more things that you could add to this. If you know, you could add like a change color of life. Ultimately, I do feel like these would look better if I drew them a bit more detail, but I suppose it works enough for my tree. And let's go down to our emitter and add a delay. So at the moment it was quite obvious, the rate in which our leaves were spawning. So with that delay, it's going to add a bit more randomness to that. Makes it, that bit less obvious. It's too high. I mean, that'd be more natural, but with the delay, like I say, we don't want it to seem like a stream that the player could instantly look at and see, oh, okay, a leaf's falling every blah 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 blah. So just making it look a bit more random. I'm gonna change my velocity as well, because I feel like my velocity it's too high. It's too high. I'm gonna bring that down and bring that down. Let's see how that feels. Yeah, a bit better. It feels a bit nicer. So we've sort of got that randomness in there, and it's not doing anything too complex. Like, I mean, again, we could start adding like changing the colour of a life. We could start adding a bit of almost simulation of wind by more rotation, more, and we'll do that with our velocity. And sort of give it a bit more pushing outwards. But ultimately, I'm thinking about trying to keep this sort of low intensity, but fun as well. So let's have a look, see how this looks. Hey, there we go. I think it's just the delay trigger. There you have it. We have a tree with some falling leaves. Oops, let's get out there. We have some tree with some falling leaves. The leaves are hitting the ground and they're creating a pile. I feel like it would look really nice if you modelled like a bunch of leaves as well on there. They'd protrude a bit less, look a bit less weird. But ultimately, pretty cool. It's not going to be too memory intensive and looks pretty nice for, a basic leaf falling effect. Please like, subscribe, all that usual jazz. So, thanks for watching.